Well, hello, and welcome to Frankly Speaking, where truth is our mission, reality our realm, said as we see it, and frankly as well. I'm Joe Spina, and with very special guest, by popular demand, Council President Darren. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and you look relaxed, so let me get right to it, because frankly, Joe says this: cash for trash. So it has come to this: the city's financial state is such that a public hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, June 27th at City Hall, the subject of which is a proposed trash collection fee applied only to non-owner occupied units ranging from 2 to 6. As it is now, owners of more than 6 units are responsible for their own trash disposal and thereby exempt. What effect, if any, the envisioned trash proposal will have on Lynn's already overburdened taxpayers is the topic of this show. To help us navigate through all of this, frankly speaking, welcomes Council President Darren. So, the 27th, you signed on to this. You were, along with the mayor, as facing the financial situation the city is facing. I mean, that meal tax really didn't cut the ice, you know.
No. 10 weeks ago, we had a $10 million deficit, and we've been trying to figure out any way we can fix that without layoffs. No politician wants to set higher fees or higher taxes on any of their constituents. No candidate would ever make that statement that they would like to do that. But the reality of it is, it takes money to run the city.
That's true. But the question is this: the driver of the city budget has been, arguably, the influx of a whole bunch of kids from Central America onto our school system, which drove that budget way out of whack. And we're not talking about nickels and dimes here. We're talking about $13,600 per student. And when you get 1,000 at that rate, pretty hard to balance your books, isn't it? Yep.
Net school spending does have a huge impact on the budget.
Exactly.
We have a $300+ million budget, and $140 million of it goes towards the school department. So that doesn't leave us a lot of money for the rest of the goings on in the city, the police department, the fire department, DPW, roads. People are always complaining about the condition of our roads. And I don't think people realize how much money it costs to fix them. We've used Chapter 90 money. The state helps us out with that. But at the end of the month, there's not much money left in the budget after we've divvied it up.
And, you know, and I wish people and folks out there, please understand this. We don't arrive at a point by accident. And 2 years ago, I remember you, actually it was 3 years ago, I think, you and Judy were screaming and yelling about we need some help from these kids coming in, impacting our system. You know, spread the wealth a little bit. That's all you said. Right. Help, help, help. Nobody came to the rescue. Nobody.
And no one's going to come. They're not going to come and help us. So what we have to do is figure out how to take care of the problem. That's what you're up against now. Right. Take care of the problem ourselves. And one of the ways of doing that is by getting people to stop using all these nonprofit groups and organizations. That's what brings all these people here into Lynn.
We talked about this when the last time you were here. Right. By popular demand, you're back.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of these organizations, they do good work, but their business is to keep people down so that they can stay in business. To me, what they should be doing is getting these people, teaching them a trade, helping them out, getting them set so they can get out into society and become productive and start to contribute.
I'm going to move on in a second, but I want to make, this is an aside. You're a fan of tech and a graduate of Lynn Tech.
Big fan.
What I'm fascinated by is the great movement that took place. I believe Trump met with all of the CEOs of the technical companies, and they're making a concerted effort to stress technical education and finding jobs and suiting kids for the future. Isn't that the way we ought to be going?
Definitely. Peter Capano and Jay Walsh have been working with Lynn Tech and the GE. The GE can't find enough machinists to put to work, and they're not training them in the schools. So those two guys, along with our state reps and Congressman Moulton,
Yeah.
got together and they come up with some money and they started a program over at Lynn Tech. What's happening is that when GE does train machinists, these other companies are getting them. And then once they get them, now the GE raises their pay scale and they take them back, so the little guy is actually getting
When I was a youngster, Darren, they had a really wonderful apprentice program.
Yep.
And that in lieu of going to an engineering school, you would be trained at their school and actually become an engineer with those. That program is no longer operative?
Yeah, it's been like, I think 10 years that it's been defunct. But you're right, you would get a college, you would get an actual college degree.
Right.
And you would spend 2 years in a machine shop, and what they would normally do, your apprenticeship would be, you would become what they call a planner. They'd put you somewhere in the plant and you'd learn about the plant and about the different manufacturing that went on in the plant. So it was a great program.
Maybe we'll return to it.
Let's
I
hope.
want to get just the facts up there so that we can know what we're talking about. So if we can, Pedro, if we can put that up there, just the facts. You have a sheet there.
Yep.
Estimated $2 million in annual revenue. Would you say that's conservative?
Very conservative.
Minimal impact on residential taxpayers. Now that word minimal, I think there should be practically no impact on residential taxpayers. Wouldn't that be more accurate?
Yeah, but I mean, anytime you put a fee or a tax, it has an impact on the entire community.
Okay. The biggest burden, however, is going to be on absentee landlords. That's accurate?
Correct.
Okay. What about fee imposed only on non-owner occupied dwellings? And that by that we mean, right.
Because if you live in a two-family
Right.
and you're renting the second floor out, unless it's your daughter or your son or your mother or your father, you'll be taxed on that. Not taxed, but a trash fee will be assessed.
That's an excellent point I want to make, because right under here it says owner-occupied unit is exempt on 2 to 6, but the other units would pay a lower rate.
Right.
But you just made another distinction I hadn't thought about.
Yep.
If a relative of yours, a part of the family member lives there, they would be exempt also on a two-family.
Right.
Okay.
Even on, I believe even on a three-family.
Well, if they're all in the
So if they're all in the building, but you'd have to have proof of that with birth certificates and
that
so
makes
on.
sense.
Yeah.
But an estimated $40 monthly fee on businesses currently receiving city trash pickup, that's a plus. Because that's not that, I mean, you know, that comes to about $480 a year.
$500, right?
Yeah, and actually it costs them more if they had to go get their own dumpster
Correct.
or whatever.
And you know something, it's unfortunate, it's like anything else. There are some businesses that only put 2 or 3 barrels out. And the unfortunate thing is, there are some that are putting 10 barrels out, and that's a fact. So, you know, they should be either getting a dumpster, which would cost them $500-600 a month, or pay the one-time fee a year, $500, and they can put as much trash out as they can. They have to be with city barrels. You have to buy the city barrel every year to do that, but it's still cheaper for them to do that, and it's a tax write-off.
That's a good point. Basic math.
Yep.
There are estimated 27,000 units in the city
27,000 units, yep.
that actually collect trash.
Right.
All right. Approximately 12,000 of those are residential, single family.
Correct, right.
Okay. If we take 1/3 of all units which are subject to the fee, 1/3 of 27,000, by my math, is 9,000. That is a low estimate because I've read other places where you're expecting more, like 10,000, maybe more than that, units would be subject to this. The goal is to generate 2 million. So if we divide 2 million by 9,000, that's $222 per year, about $18 a month.
Yep.
That's basically what we're talking about here. Is that accurate?
The commercial would be higher. We're talking about, that's the whole point behind having a public hearing, is for the councilors and the public to come and voice their opinions, to either get other councilors not to vote for it or to vote for it. It's for councilors to voice their concerns, and if we feel as though that the $500 fee on businesses is too high, we have the right to bring that figure down. We also have the right to do that with residential and with, you know.
But the point being is you're having a public hearing. As it stands now, Darren, we're talking about a proposal. It's not etched in stone.
Correct.
You're inviting the public to participate in the process. You're doing it with transparency. And you're feeding in. This is why we wanted to put this show together, to let the people know it will air Wednesday, and it'll have a couple of hits before Tuesday, which is when you're going to be having the public hearing on the 27th. Is that correct?
Correct. And one of the things that I do want to say, Joe, about this is that this $2 million is to help the deficit in the budget. And I can guarantee you this, after speaking with Peter, Karen, and with Spencer, and the mayor, and Buzzy and myself, we've had numerous meetings, that there will be a definite layoff of 40 city employees.
If you don't do it.
If we don't do it.
Okay.
That's a guarantee.
Okay.
And departments that would be hit, and I'm being right up front with everybody, is the police would probably take the biggest hit. So that's services, public safety, and teachers and the firemen aren't going to be touched. City clerks, City Hall, DPW, those are the people that are going to get hit.
Why is it?
And that 40 number, that's a conservative number as well.
Good point. It's fascinating because I knew that fire is exempt for some reason.
Right.
From being cut.
Because they have a man per shift, they have to have so many men in their contract, and it's 35.
So they're protected by formula.
Correct.
Is that the same with education teachers? Because you could find that in education you could probably, because it's so large, you know, finding some cuts there maybe. But is it because of state and federal programs that you're mandated to keep these?
State tells us, because of how many students we have, how much money we have to spend. Now, the state gives us 50% of that money, but in order for them to give us 50%, we have to come up with the rest of it.
You said 140, 141. The actual expenditures in the city of Lynn on education is $232 million. People don't realize that because there are other factors that get thrown into it. So the figure you gave was quite conservative, the 140. So it's closer to 2/3 of the budget for education. Now, here are some trashy facts. You can take a peek at them yourself.
Okay.
This is fascinating. You read it. Garbage is...
The average American community spends more on waste management than fire protection, libraries, parks, and textbooks.
Is that true?
Definitely.
If that's the point you were trying to make.
Yeah, and what I want to say with that is that before we started the recycling, the average household in Lynn was putting out over 7,000 pounds of trash per year.
My God, that's
almost double what any other community in the area was doing.
3.5 tons.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a lot of trash.
Yep.
Do you know that garbage is America's biggest export? People don't realize that.
Yep.
And you know who we export to?
China.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you know
what they do?
They break it down and they turn it into
product and sell it to us.
Right.
It's hilarious, isn't it?
Yep.
Folks, goes to show this was a little bit on the insane side.
Yep. We
in America, we're 5% of the world's total population, but take a look at how much waste do we produce.
25%.
That's right.
Yep. And that's being conservative too, I would say.
You know, it's ironic, from space, if you're up there spinning around, and you're looking down, there's only 2 things that man has made that you can identify. One is the Great Wall of China, and the second is that landfill site outside of California, right? Puente Hills or something like that. It's a mountain of trash. Would you believe it?
Yep. And out in the middle of the ocean, there's islands, miles wide of trash.
You know, we're going to get to this. I have a pet peeve when it comes to plastic bags.
Yep.
Because they don't dissolve that fast.
Right.
About 400 years, right?
Yeah, maybe even more, yeah.
Yeah, you got a point. And they're all over the place. Go down to Lynn Beach.
Yep.
And Beach, they're all over the place.
Go to Shaw's, Stop and Shop.
Yeah.
Any supermarket, and at the end of the aisle, when you're cashing out, that's what you're given. Plastic
And you know
bag.
what? I would like to argue that pollution from trash is a greater problem than climate change.
Right. Sitting right here in this table, you got the bottles, we got our glasses. There's so much plastic that is used, and these are probably made from recyclable, but the trash bags aren't recyclable. They get thrown into the landfill.
There's no way, are they flammable?
They put toxins off into the air. They're made from oil is what they're made from.
It's unbelievable. Let's throw up that little recycle, the bag there. And fundamentally, folks, what they're saying is don't throw that trash bag up there that you see on the screen into the recycle bin.
Right.
That's,
It's not recyclable.
if you do as of yesterday, you're going to get cited. And guess what? From what I understand, I ran into, you know Stevie Malagriff,
Yep, I do.
custodian over at Pickering. I saw him this morning when I was running my dogs behind the school, and he said they already cited a whole bunch of folks up there in Ward 1 for violating the recycling, what you can and what you can't put in the bin. And contaminated is the word used, and I don't know if we can put up contaminated. These are the things you cannot throw into the
Recyclable.
yeah, I mean, the biggest problem is obviously the plastic.
Right.
But no food waste.
Right.
What else there?
Styrofoam. That
makes sense, yeah. That doesn't disintegrate.
But you know what else too, when you think about it? The popcorn balls. Everybody in America now shops online, and you get packages delivered to your house.
Yeah.
All the time. You get a box, and what's the box full of? Those popcorn pellets, styrofoam pellets.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you see them blowing all around, or they put the cardboard panels, styrofoam panels, that when you go to break them up, and the stuff's floating and flying, and people are breathing it.
In particular, you know that Omaha steaks and stuff like that, that all comes in a styrofoam type of thing.
Yep.
So none of that is really biodegradable.
No, and you're not supposed to even put it in your trash. It's considered hazardous materials.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So what do you do with it? It's another issue.
You put it inside of a green plastic bag and you put it in the trash barrel.
Here is where our elected officials could really, really do something. And I'm a big believer in laissez-faire capitalism.
Yep.
You know, that government is best which governs least. But you know something, Darren? At certain points, you need certain types of regulations. You can't get around that, right?
Right.
It would be easy for our congressman to say, we do not want any styrofoam produced in this country, and that would end the problem, a plastic bag. I specifically ask for paper every time I go shopping. I can't stand, plus they slip and slide and everything falls out every time. You never
put it in the back of your car and you go to open the door and it all kabooms right
and
onto
I go and I say, what happened to my, it slipped out of the thing. Yeah, that's a really pet peeve of mine.
The problem with that is, it's called lobbyists. So, they take the Congress and the senators out to dinner.
Monsanto,
and they take them away for weekends and little jaunts and all of that stuff. So
we better start realizing how significant, seriously. And you were on, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, you were on the ordinance committee way back when discussing these issues of trash and what you do with it, which is significant. Everybody thinks, oh, it's gone, so therefore I don't have to think about it. That doesn't work that way.
At all. And what a lot of people don't realize is the contract's coming up with Resco, and the town of Saugus doesn't want it there anymore. So where's it going to go? Where are we going to be taking our trash? One other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that trash that's coming out of Dorchester is being brought here to Lynn, down onto the Lynnway, and it's being separated, and then it's being shipped out again. So trash is a huge business. You see people driving around on trash day, going through your barrels. They're not just looking for plastic bottles and things like that. They're looking for cardboard. They're looking for any kind of metal. There's people that make tons of money a year off the different kinds of metal that you have in your trash. White metal, copper, brass, anything. Computers.
Yeah.
There's gold inside of computers. I mean, not a lot, but like you were saying,
for sure. Yeah.
They send trash over to China, and what China does is they take those computers and they smash them down. And there are places in China that are so contaminated from the materials that are inside of these computers just to get that little bit of gold out. Imagine, I mean, it's just, trash is just
look, you know, the reality is this. When your #1 export is garbage, you know, there's something to be said about that, right?
And then it's being sent back here, and we're spending more money on it when it comes back.
This is like a Jack Nicholson movie, you know, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right?
Right.
Same idea. Election 2017, it's up and coming.
Yep.
If we can put that place set up, it's something, he's ahead of us. I got to tell you, this Diaz guy is the best. He should be with, you know, Fox News.
He should run.
Anyways, the deadline for pulling nomination papers is this Friday.
Friday.
By 4.
Yep.
And filing deadline would be Monday, June 26th?
To get your papers in so they can be authenticated.
Right. So anybody that wants to run will pull the papers by Friday at 4.
Yep.
And you must get your signatures in by Monday and certified.
4 o'clock by Monday afternoon.
And then it has to be certified, and then it becomes an official.
Right. If you bring all your papers in at 4 o'clock and get them stamped at 4 o'clock, even though they're not certified, they have to certify those papers.
Post facto, yeah.
But if you don't have enough...
What's it for the ward council now, 150?
It's 100.
100? Yeah.
But you should get more.
Yeah, you go out there, knock on doors, as you do, and you look, or you have your surrogates out there.
Right.
Now, I want to mark this down, Mr. Sayre. Folks, mark it down. There was a strongest man in the world was not Samson. The Bible doesn't realize this. You know that, don't you?
I do.
Some guy with chopped up hair, that's got a little smile on his face. Louis Sayre is considered the strongest man in recorded history. Are you aware of that?
Correct, yep.
Do you know that he could lift 500 pounds with one finger?
Yep.
And what else could he do there, big guy?
He lift draft tosses.
He what?
He could lift draft tosses, one in each hand. He could lift 18 guys on a stage up in the air. Barbells. I mean, he did a lot of stuff. He was from Canada.
That's right, but he grew up in Lowell.
Right. Well, he didn't grow up there. He came there to work in the shoe factories.
I want to ask the operative question. Is he in any way, shape, or manner related to you?
Distant cousin.
You're kidding.
Anybody with the name CYR is related.
That's hilarious.
It's one of the oldest families in America, too.
This is?
Yeah.
This guy could raise 4,337 pounds of weight on his back.
Yeah.
My God, I'm not going to get in a beef with you. He talk about the draft tosses. He could actually stand there and withstand 4 of them.
Yeah.
Pulling away at him.
Yeah.
So.
He's a pretty amazing guy. A lot of people don't.
So how did you run across? It was just an accident. I didn't realize that you were aware of him. I was going to surprise you.
It's like always been a family.
Lore.
Yeah, you know, passed down. I mean, if like I said, Sayre family is one of the oldest families in America. If you go on the map of America, and you look up in Maine, you'll see a place called Van Buren. And right beside it is Sayre Township. And up until a few years ago, it still may be, it was the world's largest working and oldest working plantation. They grew potatoes there. Now it's a co-op. There's a lot of different farmers that do it.
Northern Maine?
In northern Maine. But the Sayre family gave it up back in the 70s. And then the farmers up there all took a piece of the land, and they're growing potatoes up there. So,
not bad, you know, those Maine potatoes. You know what you can't get anymore, though? Do you remember those old russets that had really thick skin? For some reason,
because they take a while to grow, and the potatoes, everything we're getting nowadays is grown so quickly and so fast. That's why, like wheat and things like that, it's not good, because they only grow it to be about 1 foot high, where wheat should be grown to be at least 3 feet high. They put so many chemicals and additives in it and preservatives, things like that, to keep the bugs and everything off. Corn's the worst thing you can eat. We could have a whole show on eating. get
How
into
come
all
you're
that.
so knowledgeable on these things, Mr. Sayer?
Well, because I believe in
You're not,
eating
you're
the
not
right
just you're not
foods.
just a council president for no reason.
The worst thing I do is I drink a lot of beer. Beer and water.
Beer is healthy.
It's good
And I don't
in
drink it.
moderation.
That's right.
In
And I
moderation.
don't drink any alcohol. I don't know why. I just never had an appetite for it.
Well, good
and
for you.
yet both wine and beer
Yeah.
are very good for you.
Yep.
As you said, in moderation.
Yep.
My father used to take a jigger of brandy, which is a wine, right, basically.
Yep.
But went to bed like a baby, 86 like a bull. It's like your relative.
Yep.
But he wasn't too good with the draft horses, I'll tell you that. Now, we're going to get to witty, and you got to help out here, Mr. C. You're not just, you're a co-host, not a guest. You got it? You got to
Yeah.
do your work. So, why don't you start with the, we'll run down the list. You read one, I'll read one. How's that one?
All right. No man has good enough memory to be a successful liar.
Huh? You like that one?
Yeah, Abe Lincoln. I love Abe Lincoln. One
If
of my
you're going to
favorites.
do something tonight, Mr. Sear, that you'll be sorry for tomorrow morning, sleep late.
Henry Youngman.
Henny Youngman, yeah.
Go to heaven for the climate, hell for the company. Mark Twain.
You like that one?
Well, you can come over to the City Hall chambers next Tuesday night and we'll see.
Anytime you see a turtle on top of a fence post,
Yep,
you know he had help. Not bad, huh?
it's a good one.
Things to think about, folks. Man is the only living being who cuts trees, makes paper, and writes, "Save trees" on it. Gotcha.
Whoever said nothing was impossible obviously never tried slamming a revolving door or licking his elbow.
Dear optimist, pessimist, and realist, while you were arguing about the glass of water, I drank it. Sincerely, the opportunist.
Evening news is where they begin with "good evening" and proceed to tell you why it's not.
Typical, huh?
Yep.
Now, we're going to give you a little preview of next week, and then we're going to do a little thing on comments.
Sure.
And keep rocking and rolling. Folks, remember Harry Makopoulos? Well, he is the SEC guy who took down Bernie Madoff. Now he's looking at the MBTA's pension fund, and he doesn't like what he sees. He described what is left of the MBTA's pension as a tender victuals retirement plan, meaning, sarcastically, that its participants will be eating cat food. How did this happen? Where was the oversight? Who was responsible? How stable is Lynn's pension fund? Who oversees it? These questions and more next week on Frankly Speaking. I have no idea about Lynn's pension. I got to do some research there. But I believe Mike Marks is on that board,
Yep.
and Buzzy's on that board,
Buzzy's
right?
on it, and I'm not sure. I do know one other person, and I can't think of his name right now. He's a financial guy. And
Thankfully.
he's a ex-firefighter, retired firefighter, and he does pretty well helping out with our pension fund.
Let me ask you this, and I don't know whether you have the answer to it. I believe probably it's not funded, the pension, or it's not fully funded. That part of the pension, part of your budget that you have to worry about is also paying for pensions that are not funded.
Right.
Does that make sense to you?
Right, it does. But to be honest with you, not as much as the insurances that we have to pay, which is like killer. That's huge in our budget too.
Health insurance?
Health insurance. That's every community is having an issue and a problem. Keeps going up every year.
Thank you very much, huh? Obamacare, I thought that was supposed to alleviate all those problems. Didn't happen, huh?
No, not at all.
So it is. Let me move on off of that. So if that's the case, that's a huge driver of municipal budgets,
Yep.
and I suspect state budgets too.
Yep.
Will we repeal and replace, or would a different arrangement be helpful?
Yeah, and they're looking at that right now. There's a state insurance plan that the state recommends that all the cities and towns turn to. It would cost the workers a little bit more money. That's one of the reasons why we've been reluctant to do it. when you take a look and see the things that Lynn offers its citizens, not many other communities give all the perks that we give, everything from the trash pickup, free sports in the schools, things like that. You know, the amount of trash that you can put out, and then we take care of all the parks. There's no fees for any of them. The golf course, there's just so many things that Lynn does, and people take it for granted, you know?
Yeah, I suspect there's a lot of validity to that because most of your suburban communities have upcharges for everything.
Right.
All of, you know, you want the parks, okay,
Yep.
pay for them. You want your kid to play football, okay, you know, there's a fee to do that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's not the case in Lynn. Speaking of which, I noticed that Kip Academy has got a football team, working on a football team.
That's the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Good for them.
Yeah, they're putting it together. They'll be in Division 4.
Okay.
So they're putting it together, and I think that's a healthy sign.
Yep.
You know, and by the way, folks, listen, I'm a public school guy, love public schools. Don't make the mistake of thinking that Kip Academy is not necessarily a public school, because it is.
Right.
Of a different nature.
Right.
You know?
And it also can help alleviate the overcrowding.
Yeah.
In the city. I just, there's another time for a debate about Kip. I agree with all the things you're saying. I just don't agree with the way they go about this, bringing their students in and
Well, there's
with the issue.
Look, let's be frank and honest about it, okay?
Yep.
Kip Academy will take a student, and they $13,600 that is allocated for that kid's education goes to Kip Academy, and
Correct.
it comes off of the Lynn Public School budget.
Correct.
The problem is, if that kid returns to the Lynn school system, you can kiss that $13,600 goodbye. That's inequitable. That's got to be changed.
Correct.
I agree 1,000% on that one.
And a lot of the reasons why the kids being sent back to the schools because of behavioral problems.
Exactly.
They're not up to the standards of the school, where the public school doesn't have the privilege of being able to do that with a student.
Well, that's right, because you're mandated to educate everybody regardless.
Right.
And I must say this, you know, one of my favorite, I substitute, and one of my favorite places to go is Lynn Tech, and that's not to disparage any other place else.
Yep.
And because it's a wake-up call, particularly when I go to the annex building, and I see these kids who would, you know, unfortunately have some very serious physical, you know, disabilities, and the care and the education they're given, it's heartwarming.
Yep. I don't know if you remember Mr. Alley.
Roger.
Roger.
My boy, yeah.
And I never had him as a teacher, but he's someone that I always respected. I watched him when I went to Easton Junior High School, how he took care of those kids,
Exactly.
how he worked with them, the care, the love, the respect, and you know, it had an impact on me without him ever even speaking to me or.
Yeah, he died prematurely.
Yeah.
And, you know, his supervisor, good friend of both of us, Bob Barrasso, otherwise known as Chico,
Yeah.
he has that same type of empathy had for kids that had their problems.
Issues.
And, you know, Lynn has always been compassionate when it comes to that, so you have to give him kudos.
Right.
The other stuff, you know, is marginal. So that's that. Now, let's get to something else that we talked about on the other show. Give me an update on what's happening at the gear factory, what's happening at the waterfront. You know, the things that we should be happy about that can generate a bunch of revenue if, in fact, they become to fruition.
All right, the gear plant just submitted a plan to site plan review. I haven't had the opportunity to take a look at it, but that project
Is moving
seems
forward.
to be moving forward. Market Basket, I believe next month they're gonna be opening. They're already applying for jobs, you know, you have people applying. They're moving right along. That's gonna be pretty huge. And the Beacon Chevrolet site, they're gonna be putting, we just had them in front of the council the other night. They're saying that they should start construction early spring of next year.
So it's happening.
It's happening, and we gave what is called a TIF to the developers of the project, and it's an $80 million project. It's the biggest project that private funded
Yeah, sure.
project that's taken place in Lynn in a long time, and it's the first of its kind in many, many years.
But is there not also a similar proposal near on the same side, near the General Edwards Bridge? That's in the works too, isn't it?
That's in the works, but what I want to explain about the TIF, what a lot of people get upset about
TIF?
is, yeah, we're giving a TIF
Yeah.
to the developers, which is a tax break for their property tax. And a lot of people seem to say, well, what are we giving these guys if they're building an $80 million project? Why would we give them a TIF? Because over the course of 30 years, we're looking at close to $50 million. That's conservatively. Once this project is done, that land has sat there vacant for how many years?
Yeah,
And we're only getting $400,000+ a year in tax revenue.
Let me ask this, because I'm glad that you brought that up, because this came from one of our viewers, came up with this concept about the development of Linway, mentioned the TIF, which I have no idea what it is. So what is a TIF?
It's that the city can, so they can entice a developer to come in, we give them a break on their
What's it stand for?
tax. I couldn't tell you.
Neither can I.
It's a state,
So in effect, what it is an inducement. Well, what's wrong with that? That's the way we've been doing business for years. I mean, give me a reason.
Well, in some cases in the past, in some cities and towns, we've given away the store. This we didn't. What we did was we gave a 10-year TIF to this developer, where the first 3 years of the TIF, because the building won't be complete, we are going to charge him full value of the property. Once the project has been completed and they start renting out, then what we'll do is we'll tax them like 75% of what the value is, and it'll go down each year from that point forward, only for 10 years, where the normal one is usually a 20-year TIF.
What's fascinating is, if I read this comment correctly, and I hope I do, it suggests, I think it suggests, that it was necessary in order to anchor further development along the waterfront. If this didn't happen, it would have been hampered. Am I reading this right?
Right, because the banks right now are reluctant to loan money to the developer for an $80 million project in the city of Lynn, because we're Lynn. So once we do this, and I feel as though the Linway is the future industry of the city of Lynn through construction. So by us being able to get this project underway and get it done and completed within the next 2 to 3 years, and start bringing in renters with disposable incomes that are going to want to stay in the city and spend their money, then other developers will want to do the same thing down along the Linway.
Particularly if they see it value.
Correct.
All right. So, getting back to the market basket, Paul Crowley, who will be back next week, is in love with that rotary, which is not a rotary, because it's called an egg-a-bit or something like that.
I don't know what they call it.
It's a crazy name because it's shaped like an egg. So all he wants to do is drive his car around that. Would you believe it? Huh?
I do. The first time I came into the intersection, I'm like, are you
it's
kidding
crazy.
me? But apparently it's working, and it's keeping the flow of traffic going, so...
That's it.
They're talking about putting another one on the other side over on the Boston Street
That's
side.
what I heard. Yeah, he's all excited about that. Now, you're a council president. You're not supposed to be a road engineer.
Right.
So let's leave it at that. So we've knocked down, the Linway is on schedule since the last time we got together. It's moving forward, and that's to be optimistic. The gear plant, where's that right now?
The site plan review.
It's still, all right. So
you're talking, I believe, 2,200 units are going to be going in there.
Now, I want you to give me an honest evaluation, because I tend to think that the activity happening in downtown Lynn is significantly greater than it has been in the past. The auditorium is a great success, and there's been a lot of eateries, and I've noticed that there's been a proliferation of niche cafes around the city, which I find to be encouraging.
Well, I can tell you this, that 10 years ago, downtown Lynn.
Barren.
And because of the auditorium, Jamie Marsh, our state reps, the mayor, the city council, everybody getting involved in it, and, all having a vision for downtown, and they were right about their vision. brought in all these restaurants. We have a new one, a brand new one that's going to be opening up within the next week or two on Lewis Street called District 45.
I've noticed that.
85 seats, unbelievable food. Right around the corner, you have Monty's, which has been there for years. Around the corner from that, you have
This is your ward, isn't it?
That's my ward. Around the corner, you have the Antique Table. Downtown, we have Demici's Bakery, Rossetti's. We have the Blue Locks. You have
What's that hamburger place? O'Rourke?
O'Sullivan's.
O'Sullivan, okay.
O'Sullivan's. Then you got Bruno's down on Market Street. Tony's Pub. You want to try clams? Friday night, go down Tony's Pub. It's the best clams. Italian food, Stillion's Place over on Boss Street.
Oh, all time.
Seafood still down at the porthole. I'm telling you, there is, and we have a lot of great Mexican restaurants.
You know, I'm so amazed that Charlie's has been, and that's your ward too. They've
That's
been
my
operating
ward.
for as long as I can remember, and they keep doing. I mean,
Best lobster sandwich you're gonna get anywhere. Clams, scallops. They got the best fries and the best onion rings. Telling you, the haddock is unbelievable.
oh, I love the haddocks. Since we're going down the lane, you know, of all the great places in Lynn, because apparently, obviously, I like
Both of us.
not you, me. You got a stronger man than you. I happen to think that Angelina's is by far one of the greatest subs you can. They are so consistent.
Nikki's, for me.
Nikki's another good one.
Nikki's
Yeah.
is my favorite, yeah.
And you know, we have so many different places here, folks, in our city. We should be blessed on that.
But you get the Four Winds, which is now
Yes.
Lynn Basaki.
Yeah.
You have the Lazy Dog. You have Rollies. I mean, you could just go on. And 10 years ago, I don't think anybody could name, other than the Porthole and maybe Monty's, neighborhood places. But when you go into other cities and towns, people are always asking you, hey, did you eat there? Did you eat there? How's the food there? I hear that place is great, which is huge. So then I meet people from all over the state that come to Lynn to our auditorium.
Oh yes.
And when they do, they ask me where to go to eat. And I tell them, make a reservation here, because if you don't, you're not getting in.
Packed. You know, my daughter had some upscale restaurants in Boston. She was in for me. She and her husband. In fact, they still have one in West Roxbury.
Mm-hmm.
And when she comes, you mentioned Tony's. When she comes to visit me in Lynn, I have to take her to Tony's. She loves the steak tips at Tony's. And this is a gal that has a very sophisticated palate, so to speak, okay? So you mentioned their clams. She likes their steak tip. I'm surprised at how, I mean, when I go there, and, you know, I get the shrimp scampi, which is my weakness.
Yep.
He's consistently quite good. He does a nice job down there at Tony's.
And he's got the same cook that's been cooking there for years.
yeah.
He's in the back room. Nobody goes in the kitchen because they'll kill him. But I mean, you can go anywhere in the city of Lynn and get a fabulous meal.
What's the most unique pizzas at Monty's in your ward?
Monty's,
and I'm a
by
pizza
far.
guy.
Yeah, Monty's.
And they make the most unusual pizza,
Yep.
which I absolutely love.
It's such a fun. I bring people there all the time that have never eaten there, and they eat a Monty's pizza, and they always go back. I have not met one person that hasn't gone back.
Wow.
I think it's the best pizza in the city.
Different.
It's different. It's so flat.
You know, when I was...
It's a bar pizza is what it is.
My dad had a place. We were in competition with them. I had my dad had a place called the Embassy Gardens. So we did a whale of a business and pizzas, different type of pizza.
Right.
But I personally like Monty's pizza. Like I said, it's different, unique, and this is what I like about what's happening. You know, the uniqueness of the city of Lynn is one of its great assets, and I know that we sometimes get that risque, you know, little jingle, you know, about Lynn, the city of sin. You know what I say, Darren? Let's embrace it. Yeah. Let's be a little bit on the dark side.
Yeah. No, a lot of people don't even know what that's saying, how it was started and where it started. And it was because the sailors used to come into Lynn back in the 1800s, and they would take and spend all their money downtown in the city, whether it be doing whatever it was they were doing, and then getting back on the boat broke. And that's why they say you never go in the way you came out, you know, or you never come out the way you went in.
Not bad. It's
But
like a
no,
Vegas job, right?
You know?
We got a couple more minutes on these comments. I want to run down them, and time goes. The fee should go to absentee landlords who live out of town. But it should also go to, I suggest it should go to any absentee landlord, whether
Right.
they're out of town or in town.
Right, and one of the big issues that we have in the city with the absentee landlords and a lot of these houses that are being three-family houses, a lot of them, the way they're getting their rents is through subsidies. And the problem with that is that it's not Lynn subsidies that are going in there, they're from outside the city that are putting people in there, and they're causing problems and putting a strain on all of our resources. And there's a lot of outside organizations outside the city that are using our residents, our units, because they're so cheap, the rents. So
Yeah, you brought that up earlier on the show about over and above everything else, we have a disproportionate amount of nonprofits in the city of Lynn,
Right.
which really impacts our ability to be able to service. It's just like a sponge can only suck up so much.
that's it. We've got so much water in there
Yeah.
that it's, you know, we can't take any more.
But the fact that you recognize that means that you can now take actions to correct it. If you would, Pedro, would you throw up, because I'm getting mixed signals on our time here, and I want to make sure that we don't run over, and if we have, we have a lot of time to be able to do stuff. And I think that's something that you've been sensitive about, and certainly the mayor has, and
Yeah.
she's trying to accommodate, but at the same time, I mean, you mentioned it. You don't want to get rid of 40 personnel, particularly in a police department where you need them.
Right.
You don't want that to happen.
Right.
So a $2 million conservative fee placed on, arguably, as it should be, on units unoccupied, right? On owner occupied, so to speak. It seems reasonable. That puts everybody has skin in the game now.
Right. Well, I mean, they're using those buildings as their business.
That's right.
They're making money off of
Of course.
it. And they're using the services of the city to help them increase their profits. And, you know,
And a lot of them are subsidized anyhow.
that's the point. And, you know, when people say their rents are going to go up, if they're subsidized, they can't make their rents go up.
Of course
Because
not.
they're only going to get a certain amount of money. And what you're talking about is the possibility of maybe $5 more a month. What would the cost be to lay off those 40-plus employees, to eliminate those services? We would still have to pay the unemployment tax on these people. You wouldn't get a response as quickly as you do with the police, because like I said, the police department would wind up, unfortunately, taking the biggest hit. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. These are people in our
Wait a
city.
minute, Darren, these are the guys who protect me against the barbarians.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you, to me, they're the most important element.
Yep.
All right? Without defense and security and safety, you can't run the show.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
So never should you look at the police as your first place to do cutting. They should be the last place that you do any cutting. That's number one. Let me ask this. I've thrown this out there. I cannot stand the idea in reality, but if you're faced with it, sometimes you got to bite the bitter bullet, right? Mm-hmm. You know, a way to really raise revenue in this city is to impose a 1% employment tax on everybody, income tax on everybody. Now,
Is that a legal thing? I don't know. Is that legal?
it's not
Could you do
illegal. It certainly can be done. Now, just looking at that budget that we talked about in the city of Lynn, that's roughly $300 million, you got to assume that at least $200 million of it's salary. Mm-hmm. From the city of Lynn alone, 1% of $200 million, I think, is $2 million. Am I right or wrong?
I believe 80% of our budget is salary related.
So a 1%er on people who are earning well in Lynn, which is less than they have to pay union dues, if you want to know the truth.
Right.
All right? So therefore, you would generate all the revenue you needed to sustain everything. And all you're giving up is 1 penny on a dollar. That's it, folks. I kind of like that a little bit. And, you know, I got whacked for I don't know what. I used to make $75 a day subbing, and because, you know, such a small amount, nothing, I'd get 75 bucks. Not anymore. They charge me $1 something for, I don't know, some type of medical surcharge.
I get the same thing from the state. Yeah.
I mean, you know, I said, you know, at first I liked the idea.
And I'm wondering what it's all about.
Yeah, what is it all about, Alfie? And in the real scheme of things, you know, it's not that much. So why would anybody be upset in me giving 75 cents of that $75 in order to sustain the city? So I don't know, maybe you can take this back to you guys and talk about, hey, maybe we should just institute a 1%er, you know, tax on income, and that's the end of it. You know, that would solve all your problems, and and we don't have to worry about laying off police or whatever. And then you can turn around and do the efficiencies that I know all of you would like to do. So you can, once upon a time, you had a rainy day fund of about 16 million, didn't you?
17.
So, well, excuse me for being a million off, but that quickly evaporated.
Right, yep. It was used for the last 8 or so years to pay down the budgets.
Yeah. But when you get whacked with things beyond your control, when the United Nations designates your city, unbeknownst to you, as a refugee city, and when all these contractors from the State Department say, ooh, let's fire them all to Lynn, and everybody in Marblehead and Swampscott and Saugus are applauding that fact, and then you gotta make ends meet. I don't find that as being a nice equation.
It's not, and that's why any future nonprofit groups, organizations that come into the city, that we're going to look at those when they come here a little differently. We're going to impose upon them some type of service fee. It won't be a tax, but it'll be a service fee.
Fee is a tax, I hate to tell you.
Well, then call it whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're gonna put on them, when you look at all the halfway houses that are here in the city, you look at all the medical things that are here in the city, and it's not that we're opposed to helping people. We do more than our fair share.
We do. And on that, by popular demand, I hope you come back again.
I will.
Because we don't have that much time left.
Yep.
Always a pleasure having you here. Folks, until we meet again. Oh, by the way, next week we're going to try to take a look at pensions. And that ought to be an interesting show. So, for all of us here at Lynn Community TV, have yourself a great week.